Hi, it's 1010 the Navigator, and I am reading the Anunnaki Final Warning to Earth and Never Return in 2022, the 5th edition by Maximilian de Lafayette. And we are still on part 3. We are starting on page 273, and it's a question and answer section. The question is, I am originally from Bablos, Jebel in Lebanon, and we Lebanese are descendants of the Crusaders who learned some of the secrets of the Anunnaki in Lebanon and Jerusalem. I have heard that my ancestors, the Phoenicians, have used a product similar to athletes' steroids. This product, I was told, was also used by the Egyptian pharaohs. Could you please tell me more about it? Many thanks. Answer. Correct. The product was called Chavad-nitrin, after an ancient Phoenician embalming process learned from Bablos and Arwad, Anunnaki remnants using maharit, a secret substance considered to be humanity's first formula for steroids, mixed with barks from the cedars of Phoenicia. It was frequently used by athletes in Argit, Amrit, and Arwad. From Chavad-nitrin derived the Greek word natron or natrine, a substance used in the embalming process. Because of the reported physical endurance and legendary longevity it produced, the Egyptians created the word natir, netjir, and netjet with the immortality of the gods. According to Egyptian tradition, the first human being to be mummified was the god Osiris, whose body floated down by the Nile in the wood's casket and washed ashore at Bablos, your hometown in Phoenicia. For this reason, Bablos was a sacred region to Osiris, to his cult, and to the Egyptians. This explains the reason why the Egyptians have called Bablos the land of the god Osiris, Ta-Netjir. And this is another question and answer section. Hidden entrances to other worlds and dimensions right here on Earth. Question: do UFOs and extraterrestrials use galactic entrances and time-space corridors to enter and exit our world? And how many are there? Are they visible to the naked eye? Answer: there are several unseen, hidden, and undetectable entrances to 3 different dimensions beyond ours. A, entrances to the afterlife or after death. B, entrances to the 4th dimension. C, entrances to the parallel dimension, Ba'ab. Each dimension or zone is a totally different world in structure, substance, composition, and boundaries. Some are extremely close to us, closer than you might think. I will explain. A, entrance to the afterlife. This is called life after death, and it is exactly what you might think, the realm of deceased people. Only dead people enter this zone, and they never return. The Babylonians called it the land of no return. It was mentioned in their epics. In some passages, it was called Kur in Akkadian. On their way into that dimension, deceased people encounter all sorts of entities, benevolent and malevolent. This is not my personal theory. I did not invent such a story. This was mentioned thousands of years ago in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, in the Tibetan Bardu Todal, and many other texts from various ancient cultures. B, entrance to the 4th dimension. This is the zone that a person can enter in 2 manners, mentally and physically. This zone could have entrances everywhere, in your bedroom, in a valley, in a building corridor, absolutely everywhere and anywhere. And this includes the oceans, the bottom of the sea, in the thin air, and right inside your home doors. Many people have been sucked up, absorbed by its pulling force, or magnetic field in a split second. Once they are attracted or pulled in by these entrances, they zoom inside the entrance at incredible speed. For incomprehensible reasons, these entrances could open up and close at any time, any moment. And as soon as the person or an object is swallowed up by the current, flux or influx of those entrances, the entrance shuts its opening, overture, in on itself. Those kinds of entrances are situated everywhere in our world. There is vast literature on people, vehicles, animals who have vanished into thin air in a split second. Highly advanced alien races know exactly where the locations of these entrances are, as well as their currents and times of opening and closing. They have used these entrances as corridors and passages for millions of years. Many of their spaceships have navigated through these channels. Some ulema have explained the passages of these entrances as a net of time and space bending on itself, and thus reducing distances and time between points and destinations. Sometimes UFOs, sharp angular turns and zigzag pattern indicate where these entrances are located in the skies. This is why ulema have said that UFOs do not fly, they jump, meaning they jump from one pocket to another. In other words, these pockets are nothing more than entrances to a higher dimension, the fourth dimension. I am absolutely sure that several scientists working on classified outer space programs sponsored by some governments have already worked on projects related to fourth dimensional entrances. Some might have succeeded, and I will rest my case here and keep my mouth shut. It was reported in close circles that a couple living somewhere in the United States had a nightmarish experience when the nanny of their two lovely children vanished into thin air in a fraction of a second in their kitchen while opening a can of concentrated milk, never to be found again. The military police were called to investigate. 2 days later, the case was closed, and the couple were ordered to evacuate their home. You have every right to doubt my words. To an alert mind, these sorts of stories are science fiction. From the bottom of my heart, I do not wish to see you in a similar situation because this could happen to all of us. A highly regarded scientist told me once that the disappearance of the nanny was never considered a closed case. He said that a few hours after this tragic and frightening experience happened, one parapsychologist and one quantum physics expert were taken to the couple's home to conduct further investigations. They searched the whole house, and after 3 laborious hours, found the entrance to the fourth dimension, located on the right side of the kitchen sink. They sealed the kitchen area and circled the entrance door of the threatening dimension with colored fiberglass sheets. From these types of openings, entities, substances, other life forms, gravity, and reverse gravity can also leak into our world from that fourth dimension. 3. Entrance to the parallel dimension. I will not elaborate on this dimension because I have written on this subject ad infinitum in many of my previous books. But worth mentioning here is that parallel dimensions are not the product of fantasy or science fiction. Some of the world's most admired scientists and professors teaching quantum physics have already explained what a parallel dimension is and or how multiple dimensions work, according to their most recent findings and theories. There are 11 known parallel dimensions in the universe. Next question. Paranormal mirrors and extraterrestrials. Mirrors that remember their previous owners. Question. I read a small article on a mysterious antique mirror that caused the death of an owner. Because it was explained in the articles the mirrors had a vengeful memory against its owner. There are people who believe that the mirrors had an extraterrestrial origin and were contaminated by aliens. Logically, they said that contamination killed people. What is your personal opinion? Answer. Coincidentally, I wrote an entry on your question in my last book. Apparently, you did not read it at all. I will avoid asking you to refer to the book, fearing that some might think I am using this new book to sell a previous one. So I'm going to repeat here and briefly some of the most important points. 1. Introduction. This is one of the most striking and mind-twisting stories in the annals of the black arts, extraterrestrial studies, parapsychology, and alien phenomena. It is part of parapsychological, biological, and part alien. The subject was discussed by members of prestigious French academics of science, noted historians, and most recently, a learned group of Anunnaki ulema. 2. The story. This bizarre event took place in France in 1997. It was described by Del Cencio del Cose. So it is not my fabrication, as noted by Del Cencio delle Cose. Antique dealers addressed journalists with a request to warn the collectors of antiques not to buy the mirror, which had the inscription Louis Arpo, 1743 on the frame. They said that the mirror had killed almost 38 people during the long history of its existence. Antique dealers decided to address the media, as the mirror had disappeared. It was found missing when a criminal law professor asked to take photographs of the mirror to show them at his lectures. The mirror was kept at the police station after it had killed 2 people in 1910. However, someone penetrated their storage facilities and stole several things, including the mirror. We think that the thief will try to sell it. That is why we are trying to provide as much information as possible about the mirror to warn potential customers of the danger. A spokesman for the French Association of Antique Collectors said, "The mentioned mirror provoked a cerebral hemorrhage for the people that were looking into it. Some people believed that the mirror was reflecting rays of light in a specific way, whereas others believed that it happened because the mirror's negative energy that it had stored for hundreds of years. There were some people who thought that the mirror was a window to another world. There is no common opinion about the antique mirror, but people still try to explain the reason for the mysterious deaths that it had caused." 3. Tommaso Campanella's explanation. A mirror is like a magnet. Thus, it is capable of attracting poisonous evaporations and accumulate them on its surface. Italian philosopher Tommaso Campanella had a rather scary story or a theory about this. He stated, "Old women who do not have warm blood in their veins, who have horrible smell coming out of their mouth and eyes, find that their mirrors have become blurred because moisture drops of their heavy breath stick to the clear, cold glass. If their saliva drops on fabric, the fabric decays. If a child sleeps with an old woman, it is said their days will become shorter and her days will become longer, and the child will die." 4. Paris Academy of Science. French scientists discussed the same question 100 years later. A document of the Paris Academy of Science dated 1739 stated, "When an old woman approaches a clear mirror and spends a lot of time in front of it, a mirror absorbs a lot of her bad juices. The chemical analysis shows the juices to be very poisonous." Some researchers use this property of mirrors to explain a superstition, which says that one should not come up to a mirror during an ailment. Poisonous substances that a sick person breathes out stay on the glass of the mirror, and then evaporate, causing damage to the health of the people who inhale the poisonous air. 5. Parapsychology. Researchers stated that it is not the chemical sediment of the Lu Arpo mirror that had killed its owners. Poisonous substances on a mirror can be washed away with water very easily. The mirror has certainly been washed many times. However, a mirror might have some information. It would not be insane to suppose that a mirror has memory. A mirror in a house witnesses all events that happen there. A mirror reflects dramas and tragedies, stupid and funny things. It reflects beauty and ugliness. At times, people wish a mirror could show episodes that it used to reflect years ago, to play back the past. A. Volas wrote in his book, Literary Mirrors, a mirror is always the present, without the past and without the future. A mirror is the incarnation of amnesia. It is the streaming moment that disappears forever once it has been reflected. It is really very hard to believe that a mirror is like a video camera, but it is not excluded that mirrors are capable of remembering something. Visual images are not likely, but it is possible that a mirror can remember particular features of its owner, like other things can. 6. Psychology and metalogic. Dr. Hans Bardet from Israel conducted an interesting experiment with a woman who had extraordinary sensory abilities. He asked her to explain the feelings that she experienced from unknown objects inside 2 identical boxes. The woman said that she had a strange feeling of a push from one box, but the thing in the other box was completely different. She said there was something ancient about it, a dilapidated amphitheater with a huge ancient amorphous. When the doctor opened the box, the woman found a window pane piece in one of them and an ancient Roman coin that archaeologists had found in Bethlehem. Glass fragments in the first box were taken from a window that was broken from a powerful blast in Jerusalem that had killed dozens of people. If all things have certain memory properties, a mirror is no exception, especially when it comes to mirrors with silvery amalgams, because silver is a metal of strong informational capacity. One should assume that a mirror can radiate the information that it has saved before. This radiation might affect a human being. One should be very careful before hanging an old mirror in a room. It might be filled with negative energy. An old mirror with a rich history often causes strange dreams full of bizarre images. It might invoke unusual desires, inexplicable fears, and so on. Most likely, a mirror remembers the condition, emotions, and the feelings that a human being had. Most likely, a mirror keeps this information and remembers not images, but the meaning of them. This meaning might affect the mind of a new owner. 8. Extraterrestrial influences. An Anunnaki ulema stated that everything in the universe has memory, including matter. Thus, we have spatial memory, metal memory, memory metal, time memory, emotional memory, parallel memory, multidimensional memory, and so on. All objects retain a depot of events and vibes that have occurred around them. Some of the depot's contents is of a positive nature, while other parts of the contents are of negative nature. If an object is of extraterrestrial origin, it could radiate vibes that facially affect the mind. Health will deteriorate and death will become imminent. A type of mirror reported in Anunnaki ulema literature is called the Miria, a very sophisticated tool allegedly used by the Anunnaki to mirror time and space and the activities of other extraterrestrial races. The mirror can be deadly if used by humans. Another type of mirror is called a menzinzar, small minzar, a sort of table magnifier made out of plasma energy. The Ulema Anunnaki used to track events and produce supernatural phenomena, such as teleportation and metals transmutation. The small minzar is a highly sophisticated instrument originally developed by the Anunnaki while they inhabited Earth. The Ulema have several copies of these mirrors. Ulema W. Lee stated that it's very possible that the French mirror is some sort of a version of a small minzar. It retains memory and even projects a holographic calendar of future events. Humans who gaze at this sort of mirror will expose themselves to great danger. The small minzar emits undetected fatal radiation. And this concludes the reading for today, page 273 to 285.